This is it. This is it. I've been waiting since 2019 to do this. I've been hearing, oh, Kawhi is the king of LA. That was 2019. He had that stupid ass commercial. Everybody saying the Clippers were the best team and they're going to win the championship, and the Lakers ended up winning the title. And this guy didn't do anything in a Clippers uniform. Got traded to Toronto, went back to Toronto, the same place he won a championship. Cool. But all the while, it's this little guy on this podcast in New York that was following this story, Pablo Torre. And he's been following this thing so closely to the point that he has everybody waiting to see what's going to happen next. And boy, oh boy, we thought that there were several episodes of, it's a smoking gun here. This is it. This is going to be it. And you said, cool, it's a piece, it's a piece, it's a piece. But this one is different. And the reason why this one is different is because this was going on in the same timeline where the whole aspiration thing was happening. So while the aspiration thing, everybody understands what happened there and the nuances of the story. We get that. But there was also something else happening in the back. While this stadium was being built, or this arena was being built, Steve Ballmer, just so he can be able to hide the actual information of the arena being built and the specs and all that stuff, he went ahead and had this shell company designed and put the name of the arena as something else. What was it called? It was something Bowl?
Started with an M. It was I'll look at my notes. Murphy Bowl.
Was it Murphy Bowl?
I think so.
Let me go ahead and go look. But it was it. So he did that. So there's no public information to come out about the actual arena. And once the statute of limitation wore off for whatever violation that is, obviously you can't be penalized for it. So everything just went according to plan after that. And you got to remember, the Inuit Dome is a state-of-the-art arena. It has the shirt gun that shoots the gun out with the big jumbotron that they have. Like it's crazy. And how they do that is that every seat has a sensor where it senses how loud the particular area is, and it shoots the shirts into that area. It's an amazing place. It has over 1,000 bathrooms, literally. So that means that there's no lines. That's really impressive stuff. So Steve Ballmer wanted this Halo Jumbotron to be designed. State of the art, over $100 million for this Jumbotron. First of its kind. And he went ahead and hired this company that's in, I think it was South Dakota or whatever they were. And they're called Daktronics.
Yeah.
And Daktronics at the time were struggling because they're coming out of COVID. You know, company is not doing well, especially like I think it was like the Q3 of 2022 or 2020. They just weren't not doing well. Like they were on the brink of like folding. And this company's been around for 40 years, 50 years, right? So along comes Steve Ballmer. They get this big deal, and all of a sudden this company that's been literally on its last legs is now revitalized because you have this big deal that happened. So now that stock that was trading at like under $5 is now at like over 20 something dollars now. It's impressive. It's an impressive turnaround to be able to save a company and be thriving after that. So again, we know the aspiration timeline. We know all of this stuff. We know that Kawhi, was getting money from aspiration. That fell through, and then Steve Ballmer was continuing the payments here. We know about the last situation about the RIFC soccer club that has some type of affiliation with what's going on. But what we don't know is that Daktronics is a B2B type of business. What that means is that it's business to business. They don't sponsor anybody. They don't have any like athletes or any movie stars. They don't run any ads like that really. It's more about, listen, we've been in the space for X amount of years. You know what we do. It's word of mouth. We are the ones that handle all of the jumbotrons for every sporting arena and all this other stuff, so people know who we are. We're the best in the game. People are gonna come to us. So we don't necessarily need to sponsor anybody or have no damn type of promotion. We are the gold standard. If that's the case, Silent Assassin and Jimmy, you know about the story, so I'll ask you first. In 50 years of the company, can you tell me the person that they decided to endorse or have sponsor Daktronics?
The very charismatic Kawhi Leonard.
Board man himself. So explain to me, Silent Assassin, just if I'm telling the story, you're just hearing it, you don't have any other opinion. I'm just telling you, you're listening to what I'm saying. A company that is business to business, they do not need any type of athletes or any actresses, actors, nobody to advertise their company. Why do you think that in 50 years, they have one person that has a sponsorship deal with Daktronics?
It seems a little sketchy.
Oh, it does. And here's the funny part. No announcements, no posts, especially from Kawhi Leonard, nothing. Yet he's listed as a sponsor. So you had Pablo Torre, you had people reach out to Daktronics to be able to get information about Kawhi Leonard and the sponsorship deal through Daktronics. And you know what Daktronics did? They passed on that email to a company. And what's that company called, Jimmy?
GF Bunting.
GF Bunting. GF Bunting is pretty much like a PR agency, like a PR firm. So they come in when you're trying to clean up the bullshit. And instead of them just keeping it very, very, very cut and dry, because, with a PR firm, you don't want to lie, but you also don't want to give enough to kind of like lead the story on either, right? So they were asked about Kawhi Leonard and said, hey, does Kawhi Leonard have a sponsorship deal? Daktronics? We believe that he currently doesn't have one. That doesn't mean that he didn't have one. So you're leaving the window open. Sure. Okay. The other question was, I believe it was like something of, I can't really remember. It was, do you know the other question, Jimmy? It was.
Yeah, it was like, they asked first if they had ever worked with Steve Ballmer.
Yes, thank you. If they ever worked with Steve Ballmer, and they said no.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, because then he asked, have you ever worked with the Murphy Bowl LLC?
Right. Then he was just like, oh yeah, that. And what is the Murphy Bowl LLC, Silent Assassin? That's the Inuit Dome.
What's owned by
Steve Ballmer, the thigh grabber. Mm-hmm. So, if you're trying to put this stuff together, let's go backwards a little bit, shall we? Company sinking. They don't have the funds to be able to survive another bad year. They just had their quarterly meeting, and there was a guy that said, listen, we might not see 7 months. 7 months might be the last that this company is going to be above water, and we might have to fold. So you got a company that's desperate to stay afloat. In comes the infusion of money. Steve Ballmer. And I want people to understand the dynamic of desperation. When you are indebted to somebody because they are now holding the cards to your security, you are now at the beck and call of that particular entity. So if somebody says to you, hey, you guys ever endorse the player or somebody to be able to know, would you mind doing it this time? I don't know if we can be able to do that. We're business to business. I would really love if you guys were to be able to sponsor this guy. You think Daktronics is going to say no to their infusion of money? Because they're desperate to make sure that they can continue to stay in business? Come on, man. We're not stupid. We know that Steve Ballmer forced them to do that. Because, hey, aspirations is failing. Now I found another dummy. I found my next dummy to be able to push this money, and we can be able to start cleaning this money over here.
I feel like also, like, you think too, like, these are smart business people. You think, like, they should maybe try and find, like, figure it out, like, where, like, a basketball player is sponsoring and promoting this product that makes no sense for a person or basketball player, celebrity to be promoting. And then obviously,
and you're going farther than what happened. He didn't even sponsor it.
But
he did nothing.
He's just a name on, okay, like, this is a sponsorship, quote unquote. So it's just, like, funny. Like, you think that these people would have, like, the smarts, or just even, like, lawyers and people around them, like, hey, like, you can't really do it this way.
You would think, like that. I know exactly what you're saying. You would think that they would literally just create a promotional thing to just have out there. Hey, you don't have to do nothing, but we're just going to put this together here so we can see, like, at least we have an ad or two out there that you don't even do that.
To make it look like, okay, like, this is legit.
That is legit.
Yeah, rather than, like, going around it and stuff like that.
Just dumb.
Yeah.
Because, again, when you have the richest owner in basketball, richest owner in sports, North American sports anyway, you think that he cares about what you're doing? He's telling you what to do. He doesn't really care about how it's done. You answer to me. I'm asking you to do this. I'm demanding you to do it. Because then this $100 million that I have hanging over your head, I'll take it somewhere else. Desperation will make people do things that they don't want to do. We just talked about this off pod in regards to another situation. Being uncomfortable in a situation will force you to do things that you may not want to do just to be able to get out of that situation. You don't think that Daktronics probably thought to themselves, we really don't want to do this, but what choice do we have? If we say no to this $100 million deal, we might not get another one. And we have to start thinking about all of the people that are employed here. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. What's the worst that can happen? And here's the biggest thing for me, right? Is that if it wasn't for Pablo Torre, would we have found any of this out?
Not in this type of detail.
I don't think so.
No.
My biggest issue with this whole thing, I think I talked about this last week. how is Adam Silver going to be the one that puts the hammer down or comes up with the punishment when those are his bosses? How does that make sense? I've always said that sports should have internal affairs. It should have a separate independent body that investigates players, that also investigates owners for bad dealings. So now you're taking the commissioner out of it because it has nothing to do with the commissioner. It's an independent body that works with these sporting events or these sporting associations, organizations. That's how it should be. I do not trust Adam Silver to be able to lay out the necessary discipline that's needed. Because for me, I don't necessarily believe the hammer is going to be put down on the Clippers. They might get a fine. They might get a couple of draft picks taken away. But if you don't make an example out of Steve Ballmer and these Clippers, what's going to stop other owners from doing this? How do you know they're not doing it now? That's the problem that you face. And this is why Adam Silver should not be in this. Should not have any type of decision making or any type of punishment should be at his decision to make. It should not. So again, I've been waiting so long for this because for how many years I've been telling people that I think the Clippers are dirty. Not just because they're in the basement with the dehumidifiers and the space heaters. Not just because there's a leaky drip in your basement. You know, when you got that brown stain at the top. Not because of that, but because I know that when a franchise is desperate, they do desperate things. No one was coming to the fucking Clippers. Nobody cared about this organization. Nobody cares about it now. But even before in 2019, nobody really cared about it. And how do you sway or how do you convince a player like Kawhi Leonard and his crooked Uncle Dennis to be able to come to the Clippers? You have to be able to give him something that no other team was willing to give him. Not the Raptors. They didn't want to give him any ownership in anything. The Lakers didn't want to give him ownership in anything. No team wanted to give him any type of ownership stake or anything that Uncle Dennis was asking for. They said, go fuck yourself. And we're going to call the league office to be able to complain. But there was one useful idiot, wasn't there? Steve Ballmer. The one that said, I need to have a star to be able to come here so I can be able to now build my Inuit Dome. I'm like, how was I going to be able to build the Inuit Dome with the Clippers that I had before this? It's not going to happen. You're going to have 50 people there. So he had to do something desperate enough to be able to land Kawhi Leonard. That should have been red flag number 1. Now here we are. How many years later, and this is going on? At some point, people are starting to realize something ain't right. Something ain't right. So it says, G.F. Bunting claims Glenn Bunting never worked for Ballmer, but later asks if they worked with Murphy's Bowl. Yep. And to connect it back, RIFC also used Daktronics for its Jumbotrons. Isn't that interesting? So the same company that he has an LLC for uses the same Daktronics company. Interesting, which means that, there's money being passed around here. There's money being hidden. And there's going to be somebody that finds it. And when they do, void the contract. Void that contract. Penalize the Clippers. Take the team away from Ballmer. I don't care what you do, but just make sure you put the punishment down on Kawhi, because I knew it. People been calling me a Kawhi hater for years. I'm not a hater. I just know crook. I know crooks my whole life. I know what they look like. I know how they move. That's Kawhi Leonard. That's Uncle Dennis. They're going to go ahead and always try to bend the rules to their liking. And some idiot was always going to take the bait. So I don't blame Steve Ballmer for being the idiot. But I do blame you for being able to now make the league look crazy because you're so desperate as an owner to be able to try to get a star that couldn't lead you out of a plastic fucking bag. You chose the wrong guy. Maybe you would have tried to get LeBron James or something. You wouldn't have found nothing. You clean this up. Matter of fact, he wouldn't even ask for that stuff. That's the whole problem. So, what do you think is going to happen, Jimmy?
I don't know, I feel like they're trying to kind of brush it under the rug, but it's just becoming more of an issue. I don't know. I think they have to take the team, I guess, away from Ballmer, right? Is that a thing? Can they do that?
Well, they did it before.
Have they done that?
Not to Ballmer, but they've taken teams before. The guy that he bought the team from had a scandal. Mm-hmm. His name is Don Sterling.
Yeah.
Donald Sterling was a racist. Wanted black people to play for his team. Didn't want to mingle with the blacks at all. Told his girlfriend, he said, yeah, you can invite him to my games. But that's it. Don't be hanging out with him. Don't bring him to my house. And he took the team away from him. So do I think that that's going to happen to Ballmer? No. Again, it'll be a snowy day in hell that the richest owner in North American sports right now, the richest owner in basketball that everybody likes, you think that they're actually going to sign off on having him go? Absolutely not. And this is why it's a kangaroo fucking court. This is why you should have an independent arbiter. You should have an internal affairs that can be able to handle this. Because anybody that breaks the rules, whether you have players that gamble, whether you have players that have, gun violations, all of that stuff would be done and handled by the internal affairs department. It's just like police department. There's an IAB department. You got cops that are out there doing foul shit, internal affairs is going to be on it. They don't call the FBI, they handle it. They don't have some neutral arbiter, they handle it. So, I can't wait. I'll tell you right now. I'm just waiting for the information because, this may stretch into 2027. Sure, let it stretch as long as you want it to stretch. But just know that there needs to be a reckoning. The longer this goes, the harsher the penalty. That's all I'm saying, because if you're thinking that you're going to stretch this out, that the court of public opinion is going to forget about it, no. We don't forget. We don't forget. The entire season for Kawhi Leonard, I can't wait till he goes to Toronto. I hope he does. So every time he goes somewhere, that's all people are going to put there. Cheater. That's what I want. And the signs, cheater. You tried to cheat. Steve Ballmer. That's what you're going to hear now. So I'm happy because I don't have to come here week in and week out and say how much of a shit organization the Clippers are. I don't have to say that anymore. Pablo Torre does it for me. He has unveiled what I've been trying to tell people for decades. They're below scum. That's what the Clippers are. Death, taxes, Clippers will always be bad. They'll always find a way to do something that's going to set them back. money doesn't shadow you from getting caught. And that's the whole point, is that you thought that just because you had this money and these connections and the power and all of this leverage and you're a nice guy that you can be able to go ahead and circumvent the salary cap. Are you fucking crazy? That takes a massive level of hubris to do it twice. Because this is not the first time he did it. He did it with DeAndre Jordan. This is something that he doesn't care for, because when you're rich, you think you can be able to get over on people. And that's what it is. So I can't wait. I hope that I get the answer and the punishment that I want. Because if I don't, I believe that Adam Silver should step down. If he lays down some soft ass penalties on the Clippers, resign. Take your bald head ass and get out of here. Let somebody else take it over. Because at that point, what's the point of having rules? What's the point of having your version of the Constitution in your sport? You're just gonna throw it and rip it up. It doesn't matter. I can be able to do all of this bullshit and cheat and not have harsh, severe penalties to be able to be a deterrent so nobody else does this shit. Okay. Moving on.
Every win, every loss, every second got a cost to be the boss. Late nights, pressure heavy, never fold. Championship mindset, heart made of purple and gold.